What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the CU04 YouTube channel. The Carlisle catch-up is back. It is episode 12, and it is the Christmas catch-up. It is Christmas Eve, so of course, Merry Christmas to anybody watching this video. And anyone who has supported the channel over the last year, all your support always means the world. Of course it does, and the channel just keeps growing and growing. And you know, sometimes I just wonder why people watch this channel, but you know, the support is just there all the time. It just continues to grow and grow, and it wouldn't be possible without any of you guys and girls. So thank you very much for all the support again for the last year. And this run of videos between Christmas and New Year will be sponsored by Strepsils. That is the joy of working in the school. All the diseases and colds and everything in the world catches up with you in your half term when you are off. But here is the timestamps for this video. We've got the Christmas schedule up first, then we've got a recap from the last Carlisle catch-up at 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Some contract news, 3 minutes and 53 seconds. The season so far, around 5 minutes. 15 minutes in, the cup competitions from the for the year going on and the year that has just been. We've got a very honest interview from Georgie Kelly in the 17th minute. Some January transfer activity in the 19 minutes and 40 seconds. Some Bruns Park update around 21 minutes and 40 seconds. Charlie Wagg's road to recovery around the 23rd minute, 51st second. And then remembering those who have passed away at this time of year, of course, in the 25th minute. But looking at the Christmas schedule, then we are already behind because this video was supposed to come out yesterday, but train cancellations on the way back up home, and as I say, Strepsils coming to save the day in the end with my voice. So it's been a little bit delayed, but we are on track to finish the rest of the schedule on time. So on Christmas Day, you will get a Christmas special. It is a movie type special that we've done in the past. So really looking forward to bringing you guys that. Boxing Day, you'll get the Gateshead review. Free pint on Gateshead as well. Lovely from them. On the 28th of December, you'll get the Morecambe 5-minute preview. On the 30th of December, you'll get the Morecambe review. And on New Year's Day, you get a double upload. The Carlisle Catch-Up episode 13 will be live. That's right. You don't see it for 6 months, and then you get 2 in the space of a week. And then the Wellstone 5-minute preview will also be live on New Year's Day. So yeah, busy schedule, but we will get there. As I say, apologies that this video is a day late, but here we are. You know, you've just got to roll with it sometimes. But let's move on then and look at from the last time we met. The last time we met on this was, I think it was the summer transfer window, so it's been a while. But as you can see, Carlisle currently sit 5th in the National League at Christmas. That is as of the 23rd of December. Not really where Carlisle would be wanting to be. I mean, you know, we're still really in the mix, aren't we, to be honest? Probably more for the playoffs than the title. Obviously with games in hand, and the way the Carlisle have been playing against all them teams above us, you know, we haven't really performed to really what we should be doing. So a lot of Carlisle fans, of course, disappointed being 5th in the division at Christmas. Where do you think we'll finish, though? Let me know in the comments down below. We'll get on to that a little bit later when we look at the season so far. But again, since the last time we met, Mark Hughes has won the Enterprise National League Manager of the Month for October and has been nominated for December as well. Ethan Robson, of course, has joined Spennymoor Town on loan to the end of the season. And Carlisle United were delighted to confirm that Danny Granger became a lead phase coach at the club, which is brilliant for Danny and brilliant for the young lads in that youth setup as well. And looking at some contracts, again, we're just breezing over these because it is old news, to be fair. But Jack Ellis has signed a 1-year extension on his contract. Great to see a young lad, you know, sticking with the club, and you know, he's very crucial in the first 10 to 15 games of the season. Hasn't been featured a lot in the end, but great to see him extend from another year, because at one point it didn't look like he would have had a contract, and then obviously signed in summer and has extended again, which is brilliant. And then of course Chris Clark, as I say, it's old news now, his loan deal's nearly finished, but of course we've got Chris Clark on loan from Peterborough until January. I'm not sure if it is the end of January or whenever it is, but that is of course with options as well. And then Hayden Atkinson signed his first professional contract with Carlisle. Hayden Atkinson Benson was then loaned out to Workington Reds and has since been recalled to Carlisle United. That's what happens when you don't keep on top of your series ideas. But yeah, looking at then the 2025 season so far, starting with August when the season started, Carlisle got off to a great start away from home against Woking with that 2-0 victory. We then sort of had a bit of a wobble in our first home game of the season. I can't believe that was our first home game of the season, by the way. But that 3-3 against Bourne Wood, Carlisle, of course, 3-1 up into the late stages of the first half before throwing away that lead. We then had a 1-1 against Solihull Moors, which was a horrendous game, wasn't it? I think there was 2 shots in that entire game, and it finished 1-1, of course. We then beat Wellstone away 1-0. We had an emphatic victory against Braintree, 5-0 at Brunton Park, brilliant. And then Sutton came back to haunt us with a 2-1 victory for them. Of course, we struggled down at Sutton a few times when we met them in League Two, and we struggled again in the National League. But it was a good start to August, to be fair. It was a promising start with the win. The 2 home draws weren't great, but to go all of August unbeaten right till the very end against Sutton was a good start to life in the National League. You know, Regan Linney hit form, 5 goals, Armstrong got 2, Kelly got 2, and we were getting goals from in and around everywhere on the pitch, which is a common theme up until Christmas. There has been lots of goals from lots of different people across the pitch, of course Regan Linney being the main conductor of that, but it was a really good start in August. Maybe a sort of misguided start in August in a fashion. You know, we maybe thought, looking at the 2-0 walking, you know, the 5-0 at Braintree, even going 3-0 up against Bourne Woods, we may be looking at it like, oh, it's quite easy to score goals in this division. And then, of course, we've seen our defensive struggles come back to haunt us again, really, in the last couple of months especially. But in August, it was a very positive time to be a Carlisle fan, looking at them results and looking at how we were playing. It was good, but again, we could see the defensive cracks right from the very beginning. But moving on to September then, in September we started with the away day down at Brackley, where we got a 1-0 victory down there. A scrappy 1-0 victory, but a good victory away from home, because there's no easy away day in this division, apart from Hartlepool, which definitely is not going to come back at home in February, is it? But Carlisle then, we then beat Truro 3-0. Luca Armstrong at the double in that game. I completely forgot we had played Truro, I'm not going to lie, until I was recording this video. We then beat Aldershot 2-0, and we went down to Aldringham and beat them 2-1 in a very feisty game of football, before, unfortunately, our joy was ended, of course, unbeaten apart from the Sutton game. We went down to York on that Wednesday night, really looking for a result to stamp out authority on the division, and we were 1-0 down in about 50 seconds, and then the rut just continued. York 5, Carlisle United 0. It was a real eye opener, wasn't it? That, you know, these teams have built their teams 2, 3, 4 years in this division. You know, you look at York, they've been down there, of course, painfully missed out last season. And then we all thought it's fine. We've got Rochdale, another favourite in the division, coming up at Brunton Park. We can put in a performance against them, put things right. That's the good thing about the National League, the Tuesday to Saturday or the Wednesday to Saturday. If you have a bad result on the Tuesday, i.e. you 5-0 at York, you can then come and put it right on the Saturday. Unfortunately, that didn't happen with Rochdale, and Carlisle were played off the park by Rochdale with the 2-0 victory at Brunton Park. Carlisle didn't really threaten them at all in the game, if I remember it correctly. And it was a second eye-opener into the division. That it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. You know, it wasn't going to be a Braintree Town every week. It wasn't going to be a Truro every week. Once you started playing the teams that are going to be in and around that area, you know, 2 teams that are up there, it is going to be difficult. But moving into October then, it started with that Tuesday night victory against Hartlepool, 3-1 victory against Hartlepool. You know, it's death taxes. Carlisle United beat Hartlepool United. Scunthorpe, a very tough game down there. We got a 1-0 victory down there. I think it was Aaron Hayden with the goal for Carlisle. But as I say, it was a difficult away day, that's for sure. As I was saying before, there's not an easy away day. We then beat Boston in the qualifying round for the FA Cup. We beat them 5-2 with Chris Clark making his impact. The goals on the side are league goals only, just bear that in mind. But it was a fanatic 5-2 victory for Carlisle. We then had the game that was live on DAZN, the game that caused controversy afterwards. Robbie Savage, what's the score? Carlisle United 4, Forest Green Rovers 2, in a brilliant performance from Carlisle, to be fair. Really stepped up to the mark in a big game in the division. Carlisle going 2, was it 1-0, then 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. But then late goals from Harvey McAdam and the Georgie Kelly penalty, giving Carlisle United the 4-2 victory. And then a difficult away day down at Yeovil, which finished 1-1 at Hush Park. But as you can see there, Regan Linney 11 goals, Kelly and Armstrong 4 goals each, McAdam 2 goals, one against Forest Green, one against Yeovil. And then the other goals scattered about between our defence and midfield. Thomas, Mugabe, Ellis, Hayden, Feeney, Harper, all with goals to their names as well in the month of October and, of course, September. But it was a decent month in October for Carlisle. After them 2 difficult defeats, we went unbeaten, which we've been doing, haven't we? We get beat, then we go on a decent run of form. But it was a good month of October, starting with that Hartlepool victory. Again, goals galore really from Carlisle, 3, 1, 5, 4. Scoring goals freely, unfortunately, just, not keeping them out as much as you would like. Moving into November, talking about not keeping goals out, 2-0 down against Reading with what was it, like 6 minutes to play, and we took it to extra time. The Regan Linney hat-trick, of course, giving Carlisle United a 3-2 away victory down at Reading in the first round of the FA Cup. A fantastic away day, I imagine, if anyone was down there. But just a fantastic result for Carlisle United as a whole. Then a 2-0 victory against Halifax Town up at Brunton Park on a Wednesday night. Junior Luamba really setting off and making his mark on the team. Then a brilliant 2-1 away win down at Southend. Not an easy place to go. One of the best supported teams in the division this year, Southend. They are a massive club, to be fair to them, but we went down there, really ruffled their feathers and got a 2-1 victory. We then had that really frustrating game down up at Brunton Park, the 1-1 against Eastleigh, where Carlisle absolutely battered Eastleigh. The ball just wouldn't go in for us. We hit the post, we had one off the line. Georgie Kelly missed a really good opportunity. Just going to put the ball in there. That finished 1-1. We then beat Boston 2-1, a late goal, giving us the win down in Boston, and a 2-1 win against Tamworth. But what I want to say is, and not to sort of start being negative and stuff, but I think that Eastleigh game really opened the door to some cracks in Carlisle United's performances. Struggling to put the ball in the net, struggling to create opportunities that didn't include Chris Clark and Regan Linney. Eastleigh, we should have won that game 5-0. I'm not even joking. Boston, we battered them in the FA Cup, and they really struggled to beat them down at their spot. And then the Tamworth game wasn't what am I looking for? That wasn't, I don't want to say easy, but that wasn't as straightforward as it sounds. Georgie Kelly really had to work for his 2 goals in that game, and that was, these cracks were starting to show, and I feel like in the last couple of months, the last month especially, the cracks have really shown. The Blackpool one to start December in the FA Cup, I don't really take it as, oh my goodness, that's horrific. Blackpool are a very good side. Blackpool were playing some very strong players in their side. Obviously, you got Fletcher up top for Blackpool. Just to name one of many, Scott Banks. Again, you could name 4 or 5. Peacock Fowler in net, Northern Ireland's number 1 goalkeeper. So Blackpool, I'm not taking that as as a disastrous result. Don't get me wrong, it was a terrible away day. It was a really tough watch, and to be fair, Carlisle obviously went 3-1 down, and Hayden missed an opportunity. And you would have liked Carlisle to sort of go on and maybe challenge a bit more. But yeah, Blackpool 4-1. And then the walking game was horrendous, wasn't it? Up at Brunton Park, a brilliant finish from Junior Luamba. But then when Luamba went off, the game just sort of fell apart for Carlisle. A brilliant first goal for Walking, don't get me wrong, a fantastic finish from him to give Walking the 1-1. But then Walking just ran away with it to make it 3-1. And, really poor from Carlisle United. Then Hardborough, I didn't watch the game, so I wouldn't really know what was happening in the FA Trophy there, but Carlisle came away with a 2-1 win. But even then, we played a very strong side. And that's no disrespect to the competition, or no disrespect to Harborough, of course. But, the likes of Regan Linney coming on to get us the victory really shouldn't have been the case. It should have been like a bounce game in a fashion for Carlisle, like player-wise. Again, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. And then Bowen Wood on Sunday, I haven't seen the game, I haven't sing any highlights, so I wouldn't know. But the 2-0 win, and from what I've heard, it wasn't a very good performance from Carlisle. So again, these cracks really starting to show through. What we'll be missing is the key point. But there's something wrong at the minute, isn't it, with Carlisle, and we can't afford to keep dropping points. But what a nice run of games we've got coming up. Gateshead, Morecambe, and then Wellstone. That's a very nice Christmas period for Carlisle. Fingers crossed we can put this rut to bed and go on a bit of a run of form, because Mark Hughes definitely needs a decent run of form without spending too much in January. Looking at the cup competitions for the year then, of course, only 2 cups for Carlisle. We didn't accept the invitation into the National League cup thing, so oh well. Of course, the FA Cup we are now out of, as we said, the 5-2 against Boston, the 3-2 against Reading, and then we ended with a second round defeat against Blackpool. But to be fair, not a bad run in the FA Cup, especially having to qualify and everything like that. And then the Isuzu FA Trophy, which would be brilliant to have a little trip down to Wembley, wouldn't it? I think people and not overlooking the competition, but overlooking the fact that it is a trip to Wembley at the end of the season, which, I mean, is fantastic. Whichever trophy you're going for, it doesn't matter if it's the FA Cup, the EFL Cup, the what used to be Johnston Payne, Papa John's, Santa Claus Trophy, whatever it's called these days. But you do get the trip to Wembley with it, and the Isuzu FA Trophy, of course, we beat Harborough 2-1, probably the longest trip in the northern section. And then in the 4th round, the next round, we'll play Chatham Town on Saturday, the 10th of January. And that is probably, again, one of the longest journeys in the entire cup draw, which is absolutely crazy to think of. But you would like to think Carlisle could go on a decent run of form in that trophy and get to the final, hopefully get a day out of Wembley. That would be absolutely brilliant. But just moving on then into the next section, Georgie Kelly came out after the Bournemouth game with a very honest interview, and I think Georgie Kelly is very good at portraying his emotions. He's obviously invested in the club, and he wanted to give the supporters not something to talk about, but he wanted to give the supporters how he feels and how he genuinely feels. So I just wanted to play this clip from BBC Radio Cumbria's Carlisle Social, which will be linked below. But this is George Kelly speaking to James Phillips.
We were just a little bit all over the place, and they were very, very well drilled and well structured, and they all knew exactly what they were doing. With us at times, it's just a little bit like, I don't know, off the cuff, and get it, as I said before, get it to good players and see if something happens. This club deserves to have a really good dominant team. It does, it should have. This is a massive club, and we shouldn't become the club. No disrespect to any of these clubs, but there's no club in the National League that should be dominating us. And it's frustrating. We're not where we need to be. I don't think. You're getting to this time of the year now, and you're getting to January. Sorry, maybe I'm speaking too open here, but I don't really care. It's definitely not personnel. You look at that bench, you look at our players to come back in now. Charlie White's getting fit. It is not personnel. We have every one of our players on the bench would get into every other team in this league. But yet, I know at this time of the year, people say we need this, we need another striker, we need another right winger, we need. And I would be reluctant to say that that's going to solve all our issues. So I don't know. It's very hard to put your finger on exactly how we can kind of get out of it. And you're right, then if you're at home, we probably haven't been as dominant in terms of opportunities and goals and complete control over teams. We just don't really have that style to really manage and control. It's just kind of not the system that we're set up to play in. It leaves us a little bit vulnerable at times, I think. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us all. Anyway, yeah, it's results and stuff. It's over the long run. Then you end up getting found out, and you end up regressing towards the mean of where you should be. And yeah, maybe that's kind of just what the way things are kind of working here. I just don't know if we've ever really kicked onto that extra gear in terms of understanding and fluidity and cohesion as a team. I don't think we've ever. It's always been magic moments from Regan or something,
and you.
Well, not enough maybe, and then that kind of gets us out. So listen, sorry, I'm stumbling over words. I don't really know what to say in these moments. I don't want to say anything that I don't mean either.
Yeah, so a very honest interview from Georgie Kelly there. Obviously, there's a lot of talking points to get from it, but I just wondered, what did you guys think of that from Georgie Kelly? Let me know in the comments down below. But a very honest interview, and it's good to hear players speaking so honestly, but maybe highlighting a few cracks in tactics and formations and stuff. But I'll have that discussion in the comments down below. Looking at January then, I have got people that I would keep, people that I would try and move on, loan out, end of their loan, and areas I would like to see improved. If they have an asterisk next to their name, it's players that I would try and move on in summer, but not for right now. But looking at the keep section, it's a lot of the squad, of course. You've got the three goalkeepers in Gabe Rees, Harry Lewis and Thomas Randell. Now, I have got Jude Smith in the move on category, but I do know the coaches like to have four goalkeepers for training purposes, so I completely understand why Jude Smith will be in that keep section. But I mean, what's the point? I've never seen the fella in the Carlisle show. I've never seen the fella at all, to be fair. I don't even know what it looks like. But that's who I would keep. I then got Cameron Harper, Archie Davis, Terrell Thomas, Morgan Finney, Aaron Hayden, Sam Murray, Josh Williams and Bevis McGarvey, kept as the defenders. Of course, a lot of them I would try and move on in the summer. As I just don't think they are good enough. But for now, absolutely fine keeping them on. Maybe being a bit harsh on Sam Murray there. It's his first taste of football outside of academy, and he seems like a really decent lad, to be fair. In the midfield, Callum Whelan, Junior Lawamba, Elliot Templeton, Stephen Wern, Jack Ellis and Harvey McAdam, leaving the strike force of George Kelly, Regan Linney, Charlie Wyke and Luke Armstrong. Players I try and move on, Jude Smith, as I've just said. David Adjiboy, I don't think it's clicked at all. I don't think that just not for me. I don't think he offers much on that left hand side for us. Jordan Jones and Josh Grant, I would try and move them on. I imagine Jordan Jones won't be going anywhere on the wages on, but it will be. I would try and move them on. Then in the loan out, we've already got players that are loaned out, but I'd try and give Sam Hetherington a loan, give him some football. Maybe to a team close by. And then the areas that I would like to improve, as I know we've skipped on in the video, but I'd like a new left back, centre back, two centre midfielders and a right winger if possible. But I don't want to overspend either. I don't want another January just overspending. It's not going to work and just be a waste of money like it has been for the last 2 or 3 Januaries. We don't need another one under the Piatex, which is just a sham really. But moving on to the front of back upgrades, we do have the new feature in the Memorial Garden, which is the boot you can see in the middle there. It is to honour former players who have passed away. In some of the most important areas of the club. A lot of the older generation are now starting to pass that have been represented Carlisle United, so that's a really nice touch from Carlisle. And also something else I just think looks really smart is the honours board at the Freefield, and I really do like how the Piatex are so invested in the club's history, and they want to bring in players from the history of the club to show them how the club's doing, and they really want to be a part of that history into obviously building on the history that they're going to leave for the club. And I think that's really important to keep the club's foundations. And I think the honours board is a really nice thing. And obviously they unveiled it a few games ago, and it does look fantastic. But they've unveiled it to celebrate the club's owners, managers and achievements throughout the years. Of course, most recently being that playoff campaign, it is proudly displayed in the boardroom, and Tom and Patty, inspiration from other displays they've seen during their visits to other clubs, and then made it a reality here at Punton Park. So I do think that looks fantastic to see, and as I say, brilliant that they're so invested in the history of the club. And making this step to make their own history, and hopefully we can have some major honours in the next coming seasons to add to that honours board. But looking at Charlie Wyke, of course, one of my favourite Carlisle players. I've got to admit, I do have a soft spot for Charlie Wyke, and he was speaking to the media team at Carlisle United about his injury and how it's been difficult, of course, to come back from that. He broke his leg, dislocated his ankle, torn every ligament, damaged his cartilage, which it's not great when you've just had it's not great anyway, but he's had a tough few years in football, having a cardiac arrest. And then obviously this happens on his return to Carlisle United. He says it's been physically and mentally tough. It's been the toughest year of his life, but he's finally starting to see some progress. He said everyone knows how much Carlisle United means to me as a football club. And he came here as a young lad to prove himself. And of course had a fantastic season with us in 2015-16, I want to say it was. And, this season, last season he came back and we thought he was going to be, top goal scorer. There was obviously the crack that he was going to score more than Andy Cook and everything. And of course, I'll leave that there. But, he says that there's been a brilliant togetherness in the changing rooms, and watching lads like Regal, and he's brilliant, he's exciting, he scores goals, and he goes to he says he just loves watching them and stuff, and he wants to be back on the pitch. It brings me so much joy to see that the lads are doing well, and he just wants to be a part. He wants the club to succeed, and of course he wants to be a part of it. And that full dialogue will be linked below if you would like to read it. And of course, sending best wishes to Charlie, and hopefully, he's at the back end of his recovery now. I know he's back on the grass and stuff, but hopefully we can see him back on a football pitch sooner rather than later. He has been a massive miss. I still think he is an asset to Carlisle United. But unfortunately, on to some sad news to finish the video, of course. There's been a few passings away in the Carlisle community as of late. So I just wanted to send my love and support to all the families and friends who have lost people at this time of year. And this is just a little moment of remembrance for all those who have passed away recently.
Goodbye, 'cause this one means forever. Now you're in the stars, and 6 feet never felt so far. Here I am alone between the heavens and the embers. Oh, it hurts so hard for a million different reasons. You took the best of my heart and left the rest in pieces.